show you what I bought yesterday thrifting. So first of all are these amazing shelves. I've really wanted some of these for a long time, and I was looking at them on Facebook Marketplace and they were really expensive, and I saw these in that cute little vintage store section of the first op shop I went to yesterday, and I was just so happy to find them. There is like a tiny little scratch, but apart from that they're in pretty good quality. If you saw my last video you would have seen that I was looking for a vintage jewelry box and I found one that I really loved. I did show this in the video, and I ended up buying this because it was only $10, which is amazing. And I love that you can hang up necklaces here, and there's a cute little mirror. It needs a bit of a clean for sure, so I'm going to do that later today. And then there's a cute little drawer down the bottom also. I did get the Doc Martens because they're in my size, which is so incredible. And the soles look so new, like they're barely worn, and I got these for $40, which is insane. I've gone through so many pairs of Doc Martens in my life, but I've never had these really high ones, and I've always wanted some. They remind me of Daria and Jane, so just the fact that I found these in my size is so incredible, and they're just such good quality. And I love that they have the zip too. I love the Doc Martens with the zips. It just makes life a lot easier, and I find they're easier to break in. So my desk just arrived. I'm really excited. It is so hot today though, so regardless, I'm really excited to build this. It got here so quickly, but I have to move all of this because this is where the desk is going to go, and I'm going to find another spot to put all of this furniture. I just received something in the mail which I'm so excited about. Let's open this up together and you'll see what it is. The contract is so much bigger than I thought it was going to be. I'm really impressed by the details on this. So if you have been thinking about getting the Nosferatu vinyl, I highly recommend this one with the Oxblood vinyl and the contract. Look at that, count all log signature. I can't wait to frame this and put this on my wall as soon as possible. Hello. So I hope you've enjoyed this video so far and the little thrifting vlog I put together with some room updates. I really wanted to do this video for a long time, as I've mentioned before, but I just haven't had a big thrifting day. So I didn't buy, I bought a few items, but I didn't buy that much. There just wasn't really the kind of things I was looking for. And I guess that's the thing with thrifting. You just never know what you're going to find. It's also the fun of it. So I'm really happy with those shelves that I found because, as I mentioned, I have been looking for some of those for a really long time and they have gotten so expensive. And I really liked the jewelry box that I got as well. And of course the Doc Martens. I haven't worn the Doc Martens yet just because we are still in a heat wave here. I know I'm complaining about the weather again. We should be getting into autumn weather very soon, thank goodness. So I'm going to talk about books that I've read lately and what I'm reading now. So the first one I'm going to talk about is Victorian Psycho by Virginia Fato, which was my Patreon book club read for this month. Read this one very quickly. It's not that long, maybe 200 pages, but very hard to put down. I really love this book. This is another 5-star read for me. I think this is my third 5-star read this year, which is pretty good because I feel like we're only 3 months into the year, so that's pretty good for me because I am quite picky. So this book is set in the Victorian era, obviously. It's about a governess who goes to a English manor and she's there to care for 2 children, and some very dark events unfold. Very unhinged, very dark humor. I just absolutely loved it. It really hooked me in and some of the scenes were so shocking. I listened to the audiobook a little bit, loved the narrator for that. And I was actually eating sometimes when I listened to it, and I would not suggest doing that because some things were incredibly gross. But I love that. The only problem I had with this book was the marketing. So this book is marketed as a mix between American Psycho and Jane Eyre. American Psycho, yes, all right, not just because of the title, but because of the completely horrific, gory scenes, and also, yes, unhinged. And the humor was very dark and dry as well. So I would say in that sense, yes, there were some similar vibes to American Psycho in a way. I haven't read American Psycho. I've got a copy that I've had for years. I should probably pick that up soon, but I've seen the movie, of course, which is a classic. Jane Eyre, though, no. No gothic vibes whatsoever in this book. No similarities to Jane Eyre, except for the fact that the main character is a governess. So no, I would not say that this is similar to Jane Eyre. And I think that is the danger with marketing when it comes to books. I think with books, it really just annoys me sometimes. And there are two other books that kind of made me think of this situation. Another one is Diavola by Jennifer Thorne. I love this book. This was a 5-star read for me. I've actually read it twice because I like it so much. But as you can see here, it's got a mention of White Lotus, and this was marketed as, a mix between White Lotus and Hereditary. And I guess, like, not being in the book publishing industry, and maybe somebody can shed some light on this for me, I don't really get why this is happening a lot these days with books. Like, I understand why they do it, but kind of just setting the book up for fail if it's not correct. So yes, this book is similar to White Lotus, I would say, in a sense, because it has a family that goes on holiday and some dark things happen. But I didn't think this was similar to Hereditary at all, except for there being some kind of supernatural elements, but you can really compare it to anything at that point. So yeah, that didn't deter from the book for me, and in the same case with Victorian Psycho, but in an instance where it did was when I read Gallant by V.E. Schwab, which came out a few years ago, and that was marketed as being similar to Crimson Peak. And that movie is one of my favorite movies ever. I watch it all the time. I absolutely love it. So I went into that with really high expectations because of the way it was marketed, and it was not like Crimson Peak at all. Absolutely not at all. Really disappointed me. So I think that is the danger of when books are marketed in a certain way to build up hype and it's incorrect. And I just wish publishers or whoever's in charge of the marketing would stop doing that sometimes, because I think when you build up hype and you're claiming it's similar to something and then it's not really, it can then lead to disappointment. So setting up for failure. But that's just my opinion. But anyway, the next book that I read in the past 2 weeks was Let the Right One In, which I mentioned in my other video because I had just started it. This book I gave 4 stars, so it was very good. Just a few things that stopped it from being a 5-star for me, or how slow it was sometimes. I kind of was struggling a bit, and honestly I think the first third of the book, when things are being set up, I was getting a little bored. And with vampire books I'm very picky because I've read a lot and my standards for vampire books are very high. So for me to give this 4 stars, it's something that I would recommend checking out. And one aspect when I am reviewing vampire books that is really important to me is the vampire lore. And in this one I really liked how the vampires functioned and how they feed and their weaknesses and their strengths. I would say this book is very dark. So please check out the trigger warnings if you're going to read it. It's a lot darker than I had initially imagined because this book is about a young boy in Sweden. I can't remember how old he is. He's still in school, so he's very young. And then he meets a vampire. So me just thinking this was a story about children, I kind of expected it to not be so dark, I suppose. But this also follows characters in the town or city that they're living in. So it doesn't just focus on these 2 characters. Kind of reminded me of Stephen King in that way. And I do like that aspect about his books where there'll be several different viewpoints. I find that really interesting. I think the ending of this book was really good. I would like to watch the movie soon. I've heard the Swedish one is better than the American one because a lot of things have changed. And yeah, there are some things in this that was so dark I was kind of wondering how that would be adapted. But overall, a great read if you're looking looking for a vampire story that is a little different. And now I've started reading Mrs. March, also by Virginia Fato. Actually came across this book at work a year ago, I think, and it sounded really interesting, but I didn't pick it up. But actually one of my Patreon members, she mentioned that she wanted to read it, so that was really cool. So now we are reading it together, which is really nice because I do like to read with other people and chat about it. So not far into this, I think I'm about 7 chapters. So this book is about a woman, Mrs. March, and it's set kind of feels like it's set maybe in the 50s or the 60s, just by her lifestyle. It's kind of giving me Mad Men vibes in a way, because she seems to live in New York and she's a housewife, but her husband has written a book and she's becoming a little bit paranoid about one of the characters in there. And I'm kind of getting Unhinged vibes as well, like maybe we're going to have a yellow wallpaper kind of situation here where she's just going to snap. So I feel a sense of dread as the tension is building up, which is something I really love in books. So the writing is really great so far. I might even argue that the writing in this is better than Victorian Psycho. It just seems a little bit better with the pacing. We'll see how it goes. But I hope to finish this pretty much this weekend, so I'll give my review in the next video. I also realized in my last video, my birthday book haul, I left one book out. So I'm going to show you that one now. This is the Dumas Club. I'm not going to try to say this author's name because definitely going to say it wrong. This was actually recommended to me a few times on my Instagram because I was reading a lot of Dumas's books a few years ago, and I read The Three Musketeers and The Count of Monte Cristo, and I really loved those, so I was recommended to read this one. So this is about some events that happen after someone finds a rare manuscript of The Three Musketeers. Sounds like it's got some really cool dark academia vibes. I'm going to try to pick up this one soon. Speaking of Dumas, I'm just kind of going on a tangent, switching between different books here. The Count of Monte Cristo is one of my favorite books. Not an easy read. This took me about a month to read, but it was funny because when I picked it up, somebody told me this is a page turner, and I was kind of scratching my head like, this will be a page turner, but it actually is. I absolutely love this book. But I went to see the new adaptation last night, and it was so good. I haven't seen the other one, which I don't know how old it is, maybe early 2000s, and I know it's got Guy Pearce. This one that I saw last night was great. It's just come out this year, and I really loved that it was all in French. Because the French Film Festival is on at the moment here. I feel like this book would be really hard to adapt because obviously it's set over a very long time period, but they did an excellent job. There were some plot changes, of course, and the ending was actually a little different. But I know going into watching movies now that movie adaptations are never going to be exactly the same. It's very hard to do that. So I've really lowered my expectations when I go to watch any adaptation of a book these days. But overall, I really enjoyed that movie. So if you also like The Count of Monte Cristo, I highly recommend going to see it. But talking about movie adaptations, switching to another topic, I wanted to talk about Homer's Odyssey. This is a very important book to me. I usually read this once a year. There are a few books that I read once a year, which I might talk about in another video if you're interested. My favorite time of the year for reading is, no surprise, autumn and winter, because I love staying home and being cozy and just rereading my favorite books because they just bring me so much comfort. So this is one of them. And I've read a few translations. I really like this one by Evie Wu. I hope I'm saying that right. This is a Penguin cloth-bound edition, I do have a few of these Penguin cloth-bound editions, but I find that they are not the comfiest books to hold sometimes just because of the texture. But one thing I wish more books had is the string bookmark, because it's just so handy to have that. I really like this translation. Another one that I really love, which I know is a bit controversial, is Emily Wilson's translation. Some people don't consider this to be a translation, more of a retelling. Either way though, I really like this one as well. I think this is very readable because when you are reading the Odyssey for the first time or the Iliad, it can be kind of intimidating, more of a verse format. So if you haven't read it before, it can be kind of hard to get into, but I think this is incredibly readable, both of these. But with this new adaptation coming out, which I believe they've just started filming, a lot of images popping up and the casting's been released, and it's just a lot of Hollywood actors and who I don't imagine playing these iconic characters. But I really like Christopher Nolan as a director, so I am hoping that I am wrong and it's going to be an amazing adaptation that everybody who's read The Odyssey will love. So if you also love The Odyssey like me and you've seen the casting for that, let me know what you think, because I've had some really interesting conversations with people so far. And the general consensus so far I've gotten is that people are very skeptical and disappointed, but who knows, we may be surprised. For example, when Lily Rose Depp was cast in Nosferatu, I was not very excited, but she was amazing. So hopefully he's going to prove us all wrong. But that pretty much wraps up my book chat for this video. Again, I really hope that you've enjoyed watching this. I'm really enjoying making these videos, and your comments and views mean a lot to me, so thank you so much. And as always, big thank you to my Patreon supporters for supporting me. As always, love our community and our chats and our book club. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.